All right, boys and girls, Nate Plissken here, and I wanted to talk about one of my favorite things, and that is growing cucumbers. I've been a cucumber fan since I was a little boy, and I like pickled cucumbers, dill pickles, bread and butter pickles, refrigerator pickles, and there's just so many variations. Spicy Polish pickles. But anyways, some of you guys know my website, natepliskin.com, where I focus on things that I care about, which is making money and having good sex. And so I focus on money life and sex life. And then I also have a third category that is really one of my big passions, and we don't talk about it as much as green life. And I love growing things, and I love working on things like that. I have been growing cucumbers and okra and beets and lots of different varieties of plants for several years. And so we just want to talk about cucumbers today. So cucumbers are a great summer crop to grow. They're pretty easy to grow. I started planting my seeds this year in March, and my seedlings were already planted in April. I planted the seeds in 4-inch pots, and then I graduated those in April to 7-gallon containers, and I make my own soil, or actually I reuse my own soil by adding things like perlite. I like to add 10-10-10 to my soil for when I'm changing different crops, and actually something I've started learning about is garden soil. What is this word going out of my mind right now? Garden soil sulfur, and that helps to avoid root rot. So there's some really things you can add to soil that you've been using for different crops, because I went from planting beets during the winter, and I actually harvest them late because we had a long cold spell here in Texas. So it was great for beets because beets like that cooler soil temperature. And so, I added some things to my soil after I harvested my beets, which turned out really good. And I'm not here to talk about beets, but beets make great beet greens, and also you can do a lot with beets. You can put them in salads, you can cook them, you can actually pickle them. But talking about cucumbers, so cucumbers are a good plant to crop, a good plant to grow. Yeah, and I like to grow them in containers. So I use 8-gallon containers that I actually bought off of Walmart.com. I try to get them off Amazon. The ones I want were sold out, and so I found some cheaply on Walmart.com. And I've been using these same containers, about 30 or so, that I've been using in my small area, when I have a small area and I'm an urban area to garden in. So I am doing micro farming, you might say, or urban gardening in a small area that I don't have a lot of land on. So you can do it, and I use pots, and I also use a raised bed, and I use various fabric pots. The thing about fabric pots, there's different types of fabric, and some of them leak water, or not leak water. Yes, they do. They don't hold water as well as different types of hard plastic pots. But there's some things you can deal with, but it's not a problem too much. So anyways, questions about cucumbers. One of the things I want to recommend for if you're growing cucumbers, if you're new, is be sure and pick them early and when you're first starting. So when you first start getting your small little, like you might say, little pickles, little tiny, I forgot the word for that, but little cucumber pickles, little cucumbers. I pick them really early. That way it encourages more growth. So the first couple of cucumbers that start developing off the female flowers, and once they get to maybe 3 inches, I'll pick them because I want to encourage more growth. And that's another thing. Man, my cucumbers are growing fast right now. I have to get into my garden every day and pick every day because some of them will just grow huge overnight, or if I miss something and there's something growing underneath a big leaf or something like that, and I don't see it, it'll just balloon up and turn yellow easily quick. Some of the things you can avoid, helping avoid your cucumbers turn yellow or get into that real big plump ball form, is number one, pick them early. Don't let them grow too large. If they grow too large, they may get bitter. They get that yellow color. Some cucumber varieties are yellow naturally. There are some that are salt and pepper pickles. But for the most part, you want a nice green color. And if you're pickling cucumbers, you really don't have to pick them really big. I mean, small is good. But there are some varieties that grow really big that are good for salads and things like that. But keep in mind that if your cucumber's turning yellow, you need to pick it because it is basically probably turning bitter, and you're wasting nutrients that could be going to other pickles that are growing. Another problem could be if you're overwatering, that can turn your pickles yellow as well, because it's flushing out the nutrients in your soil, and you're losing, calcium or nitrogen and other nutrients that your soil needs. So, after you get your first, budding cucumbers, it's good to maybe add some fertilizer to the soil, either with, with compost. You can add that to the topsoil there, or you can add some 10-10-10. You could add Miracle Grow. That's not a problem, but I like to try to stay away from the corporate Monsanto brands. But that's something you could do. I like making my own compost and adding compost to the top of my soil, and you can make your own bone meal. Bone meal is great for calcium, so maybe I'll make a video on making bone meal. But that's something you do. And one thing about bone meal is it won't burn your plants. It's not a problem. But other fertilizers can burn your plants if you use too much Miracle Grow or too much 10-10-10, or if you use really hot compost that hasn't really mellowed out enough yet, and so it's got too much going on there. It could burn your plants and kill them. So you got to be, don't overdo it with any one fertilizer or any one compost. So more is not always better. Just use a little bit at a time, and you can add more every 30 days. And also, I think something to keep in mind: your cucumber window. In my opinion, you get about 90 days of good cucumber harvesting, 60 to 90 days good cucumber harvesting. And down here in Texas, the sun is so hot that it can really burn up your plants, and you're going to have to think of a new crop to plant. Don't, be realistic, and don't treat your plants too precious, because they're here for a season and they're gone. You got to think about the next season. So it's a good late spring, summer crop, and then you got to be ready to move on, because the summer heat will torch cucumbers, and they'll be less productive at the end of the summer. So you might want to be already transitioning to something else. That's why I like transitioning into okra as my cucumbers are finishing up. All right, well, I hope this is some good talk about cucumbers. And check out my website, natepliskin.com, if you want to hear about ideas about making money, how the economy's doing, investment ideas, investment in this inflationary environment. And another good reason to grow cucumbers, is because, hey, food is getting more expensive. Make your own food. And the other thing I talk about is sex life. One of the most important things is having a well-fulfilling sex life. Are you getting all the sex you like or want in your life? Is your life fulfilling your needs right now in that department? Learn more about what women want and some common misconceptions about sex and how you can have a better sex life if you're a guy. It's all focused on the men's perspective there. So anyways, check it out, and also check out my Green Life blogging when we talk about plants. Alrighty, have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye.